we go for launch.
5.
Quiet, numbskulls, I'm broadcasting.
Anything can happen in the next half hour.
4.
My friend, we cannot keep this a secret any longer.
This whole thing is insane.
3.
Quiet, please. I am analyzing.
Where's the kaboom?
2.
There was supposed to be an earth-shattering kaboom.
1.
Killers are eating the flesh of the people they murdered.
Yeah, they're dead. They're all messed up.
Probably be a lot more of them as soon as they find out about us.
All persons who die during this crisis, from whatever cause, will come back to life to seek human victims.
I'm telling you, they can't get in here.
They're coming to get you, Barbara.
Welcome to a night of total terror. Night of the living dead, the dead who live on living flesh. The dead whose haunted souls hunt the living whose bodies are the only food for these ungodly creatures. Night of the living dead. Bizarre adventure in fear. An experience in shock, more shattering than your strangest nightmare. Night of the living dead. A night with the dead who cannot die. A night of total terror. Night of the living dead.
This is the latest disclosure in a report from National Civil Defense Headquarters in Washington. It has been established that persons who have recently died have been returning to life and committing acts of murder.
I know you're afraid. I'm afraid too. But we have to try to board the house up together.
That's my point. Well, there's not going to be 5 or even 10. There's going to be 20, 30, maybe 100 of those things. And as soon as they know we're here, this place is going to be crawling with them.
This isn't a passing thing, honey. It's not like just a wind passing through. We've got to do something, and fast.
Are they slow moving, Chief?
Yeah, they're dead. They're all messed up.
Greetings, my fellow galactic travelers, and welcome back to Planet 8. This is your Mission Commander Larry speaking to you from our hidden base, Chief Engineer Bob is here by my side as always in the command center, and circling Planet 8 in our orbital spy satellite is Reconnaissance Officer Karen.
And we have a very special guest. Somebody pinch me, I think I'm living dead. The one and only Judith O'Dea. Thank you so much for joining us here on Planet 8.
It is a pleasure to be here. Thank you.
Thank you. Let me kick it over to our Chief Engineer, Bob. He has a bit of history with you. Bob, why don't you go ahead and give us a little background, and then we'll get into it.
Well, yeah, I think it was actually 10 years ago, this week, actually.
Really?
We did a Night of the Living Dead. We did Creature Features Night at the Giants game. And San Francisco Giants, I can't even remember who they played. I think they won that night. And after the game, we had John Stanley from Creature Features host Night of the Living Dead with Judith as a guest, and showed the movie on the big scoreboard screen. Everybody got to go down, sit in the outfield, and watch the movie.
So awesome.
It was a blast.
And nobody had to wear a mask.
The good old days.
Yes.
Days. So let's go ahead and start the interview, though. Judith, why don't you tell us a little bit about growing up and how you became interested in becoming an actress?
Oh, golly. I think that started right from the get-go when I was about that tall. I can remember when I was about 5 years old, or maybe even a little younger, sitting on the stoop of my great-grandmother's house. We lived right next door to them in Ohio, Youngstown, Ohio. I would sit there and rock back and forth and back and forth. I'd sing any song that I could make up. I always seemed to live in my head, even at that young age. So I think I knew way back then that being in front of a camera or on a stage in front of an audience was something that I really needed to do. So when I was still in my single digits, I remember auditioning for an equity company, a touring equity company for children's theater that came into town. And they were doing The Snow Queen, I believe. And I was so thrilled. My parents took me, I auditioned and got the part. I was able to say, "This is the Snow Queen's palace, cold, cold." And I won't bore you with it, but it was a phenomenal speech. But in any event, that started it all. Then I moved to Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. When I was 15, I auditioned for the Pittsburgh Playhouse, which at that time was just one of the best venues for live theater that we had, aside from any touring professional company that came in. They had 3 wonderful theaters, but I auditioned for a musical. They wanted choral members or chorus members. Fred Burley, James Lawler, Bill Glennon, Duncan Noble, these were all the wonderful people who were producing the show. I auditioned and got into the chorus. So right from the beginning, when I was in high school at 15 years old, I would go to school during the day. I would go to the theater at night and rehearse. We performed 6 days a week. It was a full regular theater venue. And I was fortunate enough to continue on. I auditioned for other shows and was selected. And in Pittsburgh, then I continued not only on the stage, but in television, KDKA TV, if anybody is familiar. I did variety shows for them. I then broke into radio and I was Dawn O'Dea in the morning at about 5 o'clock on WJAS. I did the weather and the what was it? The weather and the traffic. But then I started commercial work. That's where I met Carl Hardman. And by the way, we're recording this on the 22nd of September. Carl died on the 22nd of September, I believe it was 2005. So this is sort of sad but a celebratory time. I met Carl. He had Hardman and Associates, where we recorded all kinds of commercials, radio, television commercials. I met Carl and Marilyn, lots of other people, Chuck Craig, if you're familiar with those names. Then I went on to Hollywood. I wanted to make it big in film. I got a call from Carl within a year saying, George Romero, Russ Striner, Jack Russo, and I are going to make a film. Do you want to come back to Pittsburgh to audition? Well, I jumped right on a plane, went back to Pittsburgh, auditioned, and was very, very fortunate to get the role of Barbara. So that's how all of that came about.
That's great. So you thought you'd have to go all the way to Hollywood, and you could have stayed home.
I could have stayed home.
I love the different jobs that you had as you built your career and gained your experience, not only in the theater, but radio and television. You know, it's a completely different world from what I read in breaking into the business, as it were. But I love that you went through the ranks, you know.
Well, and, I auditioned also for Carnegie Tech. This was way back in the early 60s. And at that time, Carnegie Institute was Carnegie Tech instead of Carnegie Mellon. I was accepted into their drama department.
Oh, wow.
This is something that my parents were thrilled about. And yet, I had been working, making a living, not a living, I should say. I was making a salary every Friday night. I'd pick up my paycheck throughout high school. And here I was breaking into the other aspects of entertainment, TV and such. I decided not to go to Carnegie Tech. I broke my parents' heart, or at least my mother's heart. I said, I don't want to stop. I don't want to stop what I'm doing. I so loved the commercial work and the radio work, and of course the theater every night and the musical reviews. So I didn't stop. And there are parts of me that still have that little bit of regret that I didn't go to Carnegie Mellon, but or Carnegie Tech.
So when you went back to Pittsburgh for the audition, did you have any idea what kind of movie you were auditioning for?
I knew it was going to be a horror film, Bob.
Oh, okay.
I had no idea what it was going to be about. In fact, I never really got to read a complete script. We sort of worked from scene to scene to scene. I know that they had a full script, but I think it went through, as we were filming, quite a few changes along the way.
You know, this is probably not an easy question to answer, but, you know, some folks, they have children and you can never pick which one's going to be the astronaut or the politician. Was there any inkling when you were making this film that it would just become this iconic movie that you'd have fans generation after generation built into it?
Not at all. None of us involved ever even thought of that, or I certainly didn't. I was a young girl we started filming when I was 22. The film was released when I was 23. I think we were all so thrilled to be making a feature film outside of Hollywood. You know, we were one of the first to make a film that really clicked. And of course, we had no idea back then that it would click as it has over the years. But we were just thrilled to be making a film. Had no idea what would happen to it.
Thank you.
Well, I don't know if anyone was really into the horror genre. I think when they made the film, they just figured this might be the easiest genre to make a film, or at least have a successful film in.
You know, Bob, you're absolutely right. In fact, I can remember George saying that they thought this would be a quick way to make a bit of money and then go on to make films that might have been more to their liking. It's funny how these things happen. George just lived and breathed zombies all his life.
That's true. I mean, we were even talking about the fact that this movie kind of started the whole genre, really, because before this movie, zombies were basically, brought to life to be workers or whatever, and it was all the voodoo Haitian. So Night of the Living Dead was the first one that actually brought the ghouls and the eating of the flesh, and you have to shoot them in the head, and that whole thing that continues today all the way through up with The Walking Dead and everything else that's going on.
We didn't realize back then, but we really broke boundaries when you stop to think of it. Some of the things that you just mentioned, people eating body parts of other people. Nobody did that back in the film days back then. The fact that a child actually murdered and ate parents. And that never, ever happened. It was, and I also think that we were one of the very first films that really, what do they call them when you help me here. You want to make the money to do the film, so you have not a fundraiser, but
like a Kickstarter?
Kickstarter, exactly right. Back then, we had Image 10. We had 10 people who put in money for that film to make it. Well, as we shot it, we didn't have enough money to finish it. But because Pittsburghers became aware of what we were doing, there was a tremendous interest on the part of so many different people in town that they began to contribute to the film as well. So finally, we were one of the first Kickstarters, and that was way back in 1967.
But you had to be a personal Kickstarter, actually going face to face with people and asking for money.
Oh, I think that's one of the hardest things in the world. I never did that.
So, one thing I have to ask, I'll do this before I forget. Obviously we were rewatching the movie when we were going to talk about it in this episode. And I was sitting there with my girlfriend. I was telling her, that's Judith running for the farmhouse, running down the road. Did you really do all that running barefoot on the road and through the weeds and everything else?
Yes, I did.
Oh,
I did. In fact, one of the very first scenes we shot was through the woods where there were all the trees and whatnot. I had shoes on then, but when I lost the shoe in the cemetery,
right.
And actually, that's quite a story. The first time I lost a shoe was at the house when I ran around to the porch. When I fell, I was going hell-bent for election, running around, fell down and lost the shoe. George then did a pickup shot about a month or two later with my losing the other shoe back in the cemetery. So there were scenes where I did run barefoot and the others when I did have my shoes on.
That's great. So you actually did, there weren't a lot of stunts in the movie, but all the falls and runs and everything, that was you. No stunt people.
Oh, no, absolutely. In fact, everybody did his or her own stunts. If you were to get shot, boy, they tape you up with the explosives and just pray to God that you didn't burn up.
Yeah.
It was amazing to watch. We did have some episodes where I think some of the folks got a little burned, but overall, we were very, very fortunate.
So no real injuries during the movie then?
No, not that I can recall. I do think that there was one, and I'm trying to remember who it was with, but the fire that was set at night with the chair, etc., and with when they were throwing the Molotov cocktails later on, I believe that one of the zombies got, or one of the ghouls back then, was caught on fire, and they just doused him with a towel or whatever, and we just went on filming. You never thought stopping back then. You just did it.
I was wondering, in filming the movie, was it filmed scene to scene, or was it out of order? You know, some films they'll film like the middle before the ending, and it's kind of out of sorts.
It was filmed out of order.
Yeah, it was filmed out of order. Okay.
Yeah, but when I say that, I should backstep a little bit. We started in the cemetery, then we moved to the house, and so maybe I should take that back. I think that we did follow basically the script, but what happened was when we ran out of money, it took an hiatus of about 2 weeks, 2 or 3 weeks, in order to build up a little more finance. And we came back and were able to do pickup shots that George discovered we needed to do in order to make the consistency throughout the film. But I think, Larry, you're right. We did follow the script fairly accurately.
Well, was there a lot of ad-libbing, or were you able to say, well, how about this? Or was it pretty straightforward, let's go with the script?
I know on my part, there was ad-libbing. In fact, one of my favorite parts in the film was when I was telling Ben in the house what happened to Johnny and me. That was all ad-lib. George said to me, here are the main things that I want you to put in. I want you to mention the candy. And there were things that I had to put in, but he just said, do it the way you'd feel it or you'd want to do. I remember doing that and getting so wrapped up and emotional about it. The snot was coming out of my nose, and we finished that scene. The audio, Gary Striner, who was running audio then, said, oh God, I don't know if I got it. We're going to have to run it again. So we did the whole thing again, and of course it was ad-lib, but it's never going to be the same. What you see in the film was actually the original, the very first.
Wonderful.
He was able to get all the sound, and we were able to do that. But that was ad-lib. I'm not sure how much anyone else did, but often George would give us the idea of what we wanted, and then we would take it from there.
Well, and I will say, we all watched the film getting ready for the podcast, and my wife had never seen the film. And she, enjoyed it. It did my heart good that there's someone who never saw the film and can appreciate all of the acting, all of the action, the story and everything brand new. It was a wonderful thing to be there with her experiencing that.
Well, please tell her thank you, because I think that's one of the biggest concerns I have. Does the film hold up? Can somebody who's never seen it before watch it now and remain interested in it?
Well, I will say, at least for my wife, yes.
Bless your wife.
Thank you.
Judith, I was wondering, for a good portion of the film, Barbara is in almost a catatonic state. She's so shocked. What sort of preparation did you do, or what did you draw on to play that out?
Wow. I think I cannot honestly tell you I focused on one thing, but I do know that because what was happening was so new and unusual, no one had ever seen this kind of thing happen before, that I focused on the fact that how do you explain it? I just saw my brother killed, and I saw him killed by somebody who looked dead. I think I just felt it was right to go in and think about this, because I didn't know how to act in the real world. How do you just carry on when you see something like that happen that's never happened before? I wish I could tell you, Karen, that I had a special focus. One thing I can tell you is that the fear, the terror that sometimes, hopefully, you saw me present on the screen did come from when I was a very little girl. I must have been, 7, 8 years old. My parents took me to see The House of Wax in 3D with Vincent Price in the theater. They had no idea what it was about, but they thought 3D, let's all go see. I was so terrified that it affected me, and still does. It has affected me my entire life, to see that burned face and remember when the woman pounded on his face and it cracked, and I literally dragged them out of the film. I was so frightened.
Oh, wow.
That was something I did go back to use.
Well, your performance is very convincing in the movie. Yeah.
And Judith, I can't help but think that there are actors and actresses now that are going to be in a genre film, and they'll refer back to what Judith O'Dea in the original Night of the Living Dead. I want something like that. In all things in life, there is a first, and your performance was the first in that genre, and it was brilliant. So again, thank you.
Whoa, I don't know what to say to that. Thank you.
Well, we're actually coming up at the end of our time with you. I wish we had more time, and at some point maybe we'll bring you back just for more of a get together, and just there's so much more I'd like to talk with you. I'm sure we all would like to talk with you, and we want to thank you very much for being here with us today.
I thoroughly enjoyed it. I hope I didn't run away and talk too much, but it was a delight to be able to share with you.
Oh, not at all. It was a pleasure, absolute pleasure. Thank you very much.
You bet.
Take care. Be safe, okay?
Indeed, and to you all.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you.
Well, you used to really be scared here.
Johnny.
You're still afraid.
Stop it now. I mean it.
They're coming to get you, Barbara.
Stop it. You're ignorant.
They're coming for you, Barbara.
Stop it. You're acting like a child.
They're coming for you. Look, there comes one of them now.
He'll hear you.
Here he comes now. I'm getting out of here.
Johnny. Oh!
On that note, this will conclude this transmission from Planet 8. We would like to thank all of our intergalactic audience for listening. Be sure to head on over to our website at www.planet8podcast.com, where you can get more information on this episode's topic.
For more conversation, find us on Twitter at Planet8Cast.
Or on Facebook at facebook.com/Planet8Podcast.
We want to thank you guys for tuning in each and every episode. We look forward to your input and opinions. Until next time, this is Planet 8 signing off. End transmission.
By George, he's got it. It is the end.